30 minutes. That is how long it took. 30 minutes to divide a civilization that had been unified for over 1,000 years. No historians in the room, no geographers, no Koreans. 2 young American officers, a National Geographic map, a pencil, and a deadline. The line they drew that night is still there. Welcome to History AI. We don't talk about history, we decode it. We assume borders are real, lines on a map that reflect something: history, culture, geography, the natural shape of the world. We cross them at airports, we fight wars over them. We build entire national identities around them. We rarely ask who drew them, or how long it took, or whether the person holding the pencil had any idea what they were doing. Because sometimes the most consequential lines in human history were drawn by people who had never been to the place they were dividing. In 30 minutes, with a map from a magazine, and the world accepted it. August 10th, 1945, Washington, D.C. Late at night, Japan has just announced its intention to surrender. The war in the Pacific is ending, and in a small room in the Pentagon, 2 young colonels are facing a problem nobody had planned for. The Soviet Union has just declared war on Japan and is moving troops rapidly into Korea. American forces are still far away. If the Soviets occupy the entire peninsula, Korea becomes Soviet territory. Someone needs to draw a line, fast. The 2 officers are Dean Rusk and Charles Bonesteel. Neither has expertise in Korean history. Neither speaks Korean. Neither has ever been to Korea. They have 30 minutes. They open a National Geographic map. Rusk later described the moment. They looked for a line that would place the capital Seoul in the American zone, and that seemed, on the map, to make some geographic sense. The 38th parallel. It divided the peninsula roughly in half. It ran through no natural boundary, no river, no mountain range, no cultural or historical dividing line. It ran directly through the middle of a homogeneous civilization, a people who had shared one language, one culture, one identity for over 1,000 years. Rusk drew the line. It took less time than a lunch break. He never forgot it. The proposal went up the chain of command. Everyone expected the Soviets to reject it, to demand more territory, a more favorable division. The Soviets accepted immediately. Nobody in Washington fully understood why. What followed happened with the quiet inevitability of a mechanism already in motion. The peninsula divides, the North under Soviet influence, the South under American occupation. 2 governments form, 2 ideologies, 2 systems. On a peninsula that had never been 2 things before. The pressure begins building immediately. Families separated overnight. A farmer wakes up and his brother lives in a different country. A city divided by a line nobody asked for. A people who share everything, suddenly forbidden from crossing an arbitrary pencil mark on a map. June 25th, 1950. North Korean forces cross the 38th parallel. The Korean War begins. 3 years. Nearly 5 million dead, soldiers and civilians. An entire generation consumed by a conflict that originated in 30 minutes of pencil work. The war ends in 1953 with an armistice, not a peace treaty. The line holds. Families remain separated. The pressure remains contained, not released, not resolved. Held in place by the same arbitrary boundary the 2 officers drew from a magazine map on a summer night in 1945. And then, something nobody in that Pentagon room could have imagined. The North begins building, not an economy, a weapon. The pressure that had nowhere to go finds its own release valve. This is where the lens shifts. When AI models the decision made on August 10th, 1945, it doesn't evaluate it as a political compromise. It evaluates it as a system design. And what the model identifies immediately is this. The 38th parallel was not a boundary. It was a detonator with a very long fuse. A line drawn through a people who share the same language, the same ancestors, the same food on the table, does not create 2 countries. It creates one country that has been told it is two. The pressure doesn't disappear. It goes underground, and it waits. AI identifies three things the officers couldn't see from their map. First, the pressure had nowhere to go. When you divide genuinely different civilizations, the pressure on each side moves in different directions. But Korea was one civilization. The pressure always pointed the same way, back toward each other. The boundary had no mechanism for that, only walls. Second, the line had no roots. Borders hold when people believe in them. The 38th parallel was imposed in 30 minutes by people who had never been there. Nobody on either side of that line had agreed to it. A boundary without belief requires force to maintain it. Take the force away, and it collapses, which is exactly what happened in 1950. Third, nobody planned for after. The line was drawn for weeks. It lasted decades. There was no reunification framework, no exit, no answer to the question, what happens next? A temporary military convenience became the most permanent line on Earth because nobody thought to ask how it would end. The model sees all three failure points. In 1945, before the war, before the nuclear weapons, before the families who would spend their entire lives on the wrong side of a pencil line. And here is where AI goes silent. It can model the pressure. It can calculate the failure points. It can trace every consequence forward from that night. What it cannot do is stand in that room. Two officers, a map from a magazine, 30 minutes, and no idea that they were holding a pencil that would still be drawing consequences 80 years later. That is not a data problem. That is a human moment. The kind that only becomes visible long after the ink has dried. There is a man who needs to be seen more clearly. Not the Secretary of State, not the senior diplomat, the young colonel, 34 years old, in a Pentagon room after midnight, holding a pencil over a map he had never studied. Dean Rusk was not a villain. He was not reckless. He was an officer doing what officers do, solving the problem in front of him with the tools he had in the time he was given. He drew the line. He went home. He moved on to the next problem. That is the thing about bureaucratic decisions. They feel like paperwork until they don't. Dean Rusk became Secretary of State. He sat in the room during the Cuban Missile Crisis. He negotiated with the most powerful people on Earth. And somewhere behind all of it, a map, a pencil, 30 minutes. He wrote about it in his memoirs with the careful language of a man who had spent decades choosing words precisely. But the precision couldn't cover what was underneath. He had drawn a line through a civilization in half an hour from a magazine. He lived long enough to watch that line become a war, then a stalemate, then a nuclear program, then a threat that reached across oceans. Dean Rusk died in 1994. The line is still there. It will probably still be there long after everyone who remembers drawing it is gone. Here is the full weight. One pencil line drawn in 30 minutes. The Korean War, nearly 5 million dead. The division of a civilization, still intact after 80 years. 10 million families separated. Many never reunited before they died. North Korea, one of the most isolated and heavily militarized states in human history. A nuclear weapons program, with warheads now capable of reaching multiple continents. An armistice that is technically still in effect. No peace treaty has ever been signed. The Korean peninsula today is the most heavily fortified border on Earth. Soldiers stand guard on both sides of a line that two officers drew from a National Geographic map in 30 minutes on a summer night in Washington. The people on both sides of that line speak the same language, share the same history, carry the same surnames, divided by 30 minutes of pencil work. The line that divided Korea was not drawn by a villain. It was not drawn with malice. It was drawn by someone solving a problem in 30 minutes with what he had. That is the most disturbing part. This is what bureaucratic momentum does. It creates decisions that feel temporary and makes them permanent. It hands the pencil to whoever is in the room and walks away. The most dangerous signature in history is not the one signed with bad intentions. It is the one signed in 30 minutes by someone who assumed someone else had already thought it through. Nobody had. Right now, lines are being drawn. In trade agreements, in territorial waters, in digital borders that didn't exist 20 years ago, in the boundaries being negotiated around artificial intelligence itself. All of them drawn by people under pressure. All of them drawn faster than the consequences can be modeled. All of them assumed to be temporary. The question is not whether those lines will hold. The question is, who is in the room when they are drawn? And how much time do they have? The most permanent things in history were meant to be temporary. And in the next episode, one night, one room, a page of numbers that weren't supposed to mean anything. By morning, someone had read a secret that was never meant to be read, and a war changed direction because of what he found before the sun came up.